Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Isaac Christopher Lubogo. Today we're going to talk about psychology of law, or the law of psychology. We'll decipher and find out exactly what we need to talk about. Listen, in the halls of justice, the scales of truth and fairness are not measured solely in law, but in the depth of human thought and behavior. Lawyers, therefore, must not only master statutes and precedents, but also profound wisdom of psychology to unveil the authentic stories of their clients and the profound mysteries of the human spirit. And therefore, the need for psychology. So what is psychology? Psychology basically is a scientific study of the mind and behavior. It seeks to understand and explain how and why individuals think, in terms of how they feel and act, in terms of what they do. So psychologists basically explore a wide range of topics, including emotions, cognition, perception, motivation, development, personality, social interactions, and even mental health, and even more. So I'm going to take you through a ride so that you can comprehend some of the key aspects of psychology, but in a legal perspective, so that we can embrace psychology in law. Now, psychology helps in terms of research and empirical studies. Psychologists use what they call systematic research methods to gather and analyze data. This empirical, approach allows them to draw conclusions based on evidence rather than speculations. Number two, it helps in terms of understanding the mind. Psychology delves into the functioning of the human mind, examining processes such as memory, decision making, and even problem solving and learning. Number three, psychology will help in terms of what they call behavior analysis. Psychologists, what they do, they study human and animal behavior to identify patterns, causes, and even consequences of actions. So this analysis helps in understanding the behavior responses to various stimuli and situations. Number four, psychology will also help individuals and group differences in terms of psychology investigations in ways in which individuals and groups differ and the factors contributing to these differences. So these include things like studying personality, intelligence, and even cultural influences. And then another aspect is what they call applied psychology. Now, psychology has many practical applications in areas such as clinical psychology, which may involve things like treating mental and health issues, counseling, providing guidance and support, industrial, or what they call organizational psychology, which involves in terms of improving workplace productivity, and also educational psychology, which enhances teaching and learning. And so I'm making a case why we need to have psychology in law schools, perhaps as a course distinct unit. It also helps in terms of development and lifespan studies. Psychologists examine how individuals change and evolve throughout their lives. Okay, this includes understanding the development of children, for example, or even adolescents and even adults. So that's very, very important. Also, psychology is very, very necessary in terms of mental health and well-being. Psychology plays a crucial role in terms of assessing, diagnosing, and even treating what they call mental health conditions. It also focuses on promoting mental health well-being and resiliency. Another aspect is psychology also helps with what they call social and cultural aspects. Now that the field explores how individuals are actually influenced by their social and cultural environment, studying topics like social behavior, prejudice, conformity, and the impact of culture on psychology. And then there's what they call biological and neuroscientific underpinnings. Psychology would help in terms of research. It often involves understanding the neuro and the biological basis of behavior and mental processes in terms of what they call neuroscience, and in particular the study of the brain and its role, behavior, and in terms of cognition, which reminds us of our book, Guardians of the Mind. Read and find out that book. Listen, it also helps in terms of clinical and what they call therapeutic interventions. So clinical psychologists and therapists apply psychology principles to help individuals manage and overcome mental health issues and even emotional challenges. Now, if you realize that almost all these things touch everything that have to do with behavior habits of how clients should behave. So lawyers can benefit from these various branches of psychology depending on their areas of practice and even specific goals. Some areas of psychology that are actually particularly relevant for lawyers may include the following. Number one, what they call cognitive psychology. Now, lawyers can actually study cognitive psychology to understand how people think, how they reason, and how they make decisions. This knowledge can help in terms of legal reasoning, crafting what they call persuasive arguments, and even assessing the mental processes of the clients and the witnesses. That is extremely important for those of you who are studying law, and that's why I'm making an advocacy for the studying of psychology in law schools. Number two, social psychology. Understanding social psychology is valuable for lawyers in terms of dealing with interpersonal relationships, in terms of negotiations, in terms of jury behavior, for example, in terms of, it provides an insight on how individuals are influenced by societal factors and even group dynamics and even biases. So that is another important aspect. Talk about forensic psychology. This branch of psychology is highly relevant for lawyers in terms of working in criminal law. Forensic psychologists study criminal behavior in terms of what they call profiling, and also the mental states of the defendants, so that they can know the area in which they can build a stronger case in terms of their defense or even their prosecution. That is becoming extremely important in the law, and it must be emphasized. Then there's what they call clinical and counseling psychology. Lawyers involved in family law, for example, mental health law, and other areas requiring client counseling can benefit from understanding clinical and counseling psychology. This knowledge will help lawyers to address clients' emotional and even psychological needs. Hence, the importance of studying law in as far as psychology is concerned. Now, development psychology, for example. Lawyers working with children or even adolescents or even family law cases may actually find development psychology useful. It focuses on how human development across the lifespan and can also provide insight into the needs and the vulnerability of different age groups. That becomes extremely important. And then is what we call ethical psychology. Yeah? This area will actually help explore what they call ethical decision makings and even moral reasoning. So lawyers can actually use ethical psychology to navigate complex ethical dilemmas, ensuring that they uphold ethical standards in their practice. That is extremely important. Another reason why lawyers should actually study psychology is what they call criminal psychology. Criminology perhaps, but criminal psychology. Lawyers involved in criminal cases can actually benefit from studying criminal psychology, which delves into motivations and behavior of criminals. In other words, it helps you to understand and to assist in building effective legal strategies. And then another important aspect why lawyers should actually engage in psychology is what they call behavior economics. Now, behavior economics combines psychology and economics, so to study how people make decisions related to money, for example, and resources. So lawyers dealing with financial and contract law may find this field extremely important. Another aspect why lawyers should study law is in terms of what they call health psychology. Okay, now lawyers working on cases related to health or medical practice, for example, or even disability law can actually benefit from this kind of knowledge in terms of health psychology. This branch will help focus on what they call psychological aspects of the health and the well-being. That becomes extremely important. And then there's what we call psychological assessment and testing. So it is important. Understanding psychological assessment and testing is essential for lawyers involved in cases where psychological evaluations are actually required. So such competence in terms of assessment is important. For example, in terms of child custody evaluations, that becomes extremely important. So the choice of which branch of psychology to study depends on the lawyer's specific practice in terms of their areas. But I'm just saying that it's important for you as a lawyer to have a well-rounded understanding of psychology, which can enhance as a lawyer, as your lawyer, as your ability to be able to serve your clients effectively and to be able to make what they call informed decisions and to be able to navigate the complexities of the legal system. So psychology, for avoidance of doubt, becomes a diverse field with various sub-disciplines, as I just told you, and different approaches. It's both an academic discipline and also a profession. So psychologists usually work in a wide range of settings, including academic institutions, clinical practices, corporations, for example, government agencies, research institutions, and it will help you to advance your understanding of human behavior and even the mental processes as well. In terms of arguing, for purposes of having what they call a philosophical case of why lawyers need psychology, can be based on the fundamental principles of justice, of ethics, and the pursuit of truth within the legal system. I'm going to give some philosophical arguments of why we lawyers or advocates for that purpose should embrace this. Let's argue in terms of justice and fairness. The legal system, for example, is fundamentally concerned with the administration of justice and the protection of individuals' rights. So it is the core, as far as justice is concerned, to involve fairness and what they call equitable treatment for all. So to achieve this, lawyers must understand the intricacies of human behavior and cognition, which are the very foundations of psychological principles. So by grasping the psychological underpinnings of human actions, lawyers can better ensure that their clients receive just and fair treatment. Number two, let's argue in terms of human nature and responsibility. A philosophical perspective recognizes that understanding human behavior or human nature is essential in terms of assessing individual responsibility. So legal professionals, especially lawyers, play a very, very vital and pivotal role in determining the culpability and advocating for their clients. So in order to make sound judgments about individual behavior and responsibilities, lawyers must delve into the realm of psychology in terms of examining factors such as intent, such as motive, and even mental state. That's extremely important. Number three, ethical practice. As I said, philosophy would emphasize that the importance of ethical decision in terms of making and moral responsibility. So legal professions are bound by strict ethical codes to uphold justice and truth and the rights of their clients. So the knowledge of psychology is indispensable in adhering to these ethical guidelines. It enables lawyers, for example, to provide the best possible legal representation, respecting dignity and autonomy in terms of their clients. And then number five is what I would like to term in terms of what called the pursuit of truth. Philosophy will, values the pursuit of truth in terms of knowledge as a moral imperative. So lawyers are seekers of justice, and they are entrusted with uncovering the truth in legal matters. So this quest often involves interpreting and challenging human behavior in terms of testimony. So psychology will equip the lawyers with the tools to critical evaluation in terms of evidence, assessing credibility, and even uncover the truth in terms of complex and legal scenarios. And then another issue is in terms of what they call informed decision making. Philosophy, for example, holds that informed decisions making is actually essential to uphold individual autonomy and even ethical conduct. So lawyers are pivotal in terms of guiding their clients through the legal processes and understanding the psychological aspects of their client's decision in terms of it becomes crucial in terms of respecting their autonomy. So this insight will definitely help lawyers to provide informed guidance while upholding the principles of self-determination. So it's extremely important. Another aspect is a creation of what they call a more just society. So from a philosophical perspective, a just and fair society is one that upholds principles of reason, ethics, and even human dignity. So lawyers serve as agents of justice in society. So by incorporating psychology into their practice, lawyers can actually contribute to a more just and equitable level of development, aligned with fundamental values in terms of democratic and even enlightened society. So, in short, when we argue this, we're simply saying that it will help us to understand and encourage and even, motivate our lawyers to study psychology as a means of how upholding justice, ethical practice, individual autonomy, and the pursuit of truth within the legal system. So, understanding human behavior and the cognition is an integral part in fulfilling the ethical and moral responsibilities that are inherent in the legal profession, so that we ensure justice is served in an enlightened and an equitable society. So it's also important, by the way, to make a distinction understanding the word psychology. Psychology of law basically refers to the study of how psychological principles and concepts intersect with the legal system, and that's where our book comes from. It will encompass a broad range of topics, including how people make legal decisions in terms of the psychological factors that influence, for example, juries or even mental health individuals in terms of how they're involved in terms of legal proceedings, and the psychological impact of the legal processes on how those who are subject to them. Psychologists, as I said, in this field will help us investigate, and if you are impressed with this facet, then you should have that investigative mind in terms of understanding the legal system, such as eyewitness testimony, reliability of confessions, the role of the mental health in criminal cases, and the effectiveness of how various legal interventions can actually occur. So understanding psychology of law can actually provide insight into the human behavior within the legal context, and will help improve the legal systems in terms of fairness, effectiveness, and in terms of an outcome. And there is a distinction. On the other hand, the law of psychology does not typically refer to recognized field of the study. It is instead could be useful in terms of informally discussing how legal principles and regulations may actually apply in terms of issues related to psychology. For example, it might refer to the ethical guidelines in terms of psychologists, or in terms of procedures of how competent evaluations can actually be done and how they are related in terms of mental health treatment. So in summary, it's extremely important for you to understand that the law of psychology is a well-established field that examines the intersection of psychology and the legal system. That is important. So it's important for you, my friends, as advocates, as lawyers, as future lawyers, or perhaps or senior lawyers, call yourself whatever you want, for you to comprehend and understand why you need to comprehend the law of psychology in law schools. It's extremely important, or the psychology of the law. Choose how you call it, but I've just made that difference for you so that you can understand human behavior. And understanding human behavior in terms of human behavior, in terms of emotions, in terms of decision making, will help you to anticipate how individuals are involved in legal cases, how they might think or even act. And this can be valuable in terms of litigation, negotiation, and even counseling your clients. It will help you even in terms of effective communication. Understanding psychology can actually improve you as a lawyer in terms of your ability to communicate effectively with your clients, in terms of witnesses, even in terms of judicial officers. It can even help in terms of enhancing your persuasive skills so that you can help convey a complex and legal, matter in a, a relatable manner. It will help in terms of selecting people who are going to preside over, cases. In other jurisdictions, they call them jury selection. Okay. Here we call them assessors. It will help you to understand how you need to do, what kind of assessors do you need to avoid biases, to avoid personalities that can actually be crucial in terms of building what they call a persuasive case. It will help you in terms of witness preparation. For example, lawyers can use psychological techniques to prepare witnesses for court appearances, helping them to manage stress, for example, and even present themselves in terms of confidentiality and provide consistent behavior. This can be done in law schools or even at post-law school, for example, at Law Development Center. These are issues that are extremely important. In terms of your negotiation skills, for example, psychology can enhance, lawyers' negotiation skills by improving their ability to empathize with the other party, even identify common grounds and each mutually beneficial agreement, as it were. Psychology will also be a legal strategy. Psychology can actually inform your legal strategy in terms of, including the choice for your legal argument, in terms of your trial tactics, in terms of settlement approaches. It can actually help you as a lawyer in terms of crafting what they call persuasive narratives that can actually resonate with the judges or even, the assessors for that purpose. It will also help in terms of ethical considerations. So understanding psychology becomes extremely essential for you as a lawyer or even an advocate in terms of addressing the ethical consideration, such as ensuring that your clients have capacity to make informed decisions and even assessing the mental health of your individuals in terms before they get involved in these cases. It will also help in terms of what they call conflict resolution, for example, what other people call ADR. Psychology can actually aid in terms of resolving conflicts, whether in court or through what they call ADR. Okay, so in terms of mediation, in terms of negotiation, for example, or conciliation, in terms of benefiting from an understanding of human motivation and behavior. It will also help in terms of what they call client relationship. Lawyers are attuned to their clients' emotional needs and psychological well-being in order to provide them better counseling and support during these legal proceedings. It's extremely important. Yeah, we are warned as lawyers not to go into the arena, but that's the reason perhaps why you need to have control of your emotional, integrity. In terms of mental health, for example, lawyers should specialize in terms of mental health law, such that those dealing with clients with mental illness or disabilities can actually benefit greatly from a solid understanding of psychology and its implication of their cases. In terms of legal writing, for example, effective legal writing often involves tailoring arguments and even persuasive techniques to a judge or judicial officer or an audience in terms of psychology. It's extremely important. How do you, prepare your case in terms of that concept? In terms of criminal law, for example, in criminal law, understanding psychological aspects of criminal behavior, motivations, and even mental states is crucial and important in building a defense or in terms of prosecution of a case. So by incorporating psychology into the legal practice, it allows you, advocates or lawyers, to be more effective in terms of your advocacy, to better serve your clients, and even navigate the complexities of the legal system. It can enhance your ability to achieve just outcomes and even contribute to a more informed, empathetic, but also ethical legal practice. So, my friends, in the field of psychology and law, there are several key areas that you could study and research, and they can actually provide you, advocates and lawyers, and even legal professionals, with valuable insights on the intersection of psychology and the legal system. Yeah, I'm going to give just a few of those so that you can understand what I'm talking about. Okay, areas, for example, that you may want to look at or specialize in at maybe master's level. For undergraduates, I'm making an advocacy that it should be compulsory. For postgraduate masters, you could do what they call criminal psychology. This area focuses on understanding psychological factors that influence criminal behavior, including criminal profiling, motivations, and even recidivism. Okay, it's relevant for criminal defense and also prosecution and even law enforcement. Then another is what they call forensic psychology. Forensic psychology involves the application of psychological principles to legal issues, for example. And topics may include things like assessing the mental competence of defendants and even evaluating the credibility of witnesses and providing what they call expert testimony in court. Then there's what they call, another area could be what they call psychological assessment and testing. This area could actually help explore the use of psychological assessment and even testing legal, in the legal context, such as evaluating the mental health of individuals and in the involvement of legal proceedings, and also assessing the risk of reoffending, for example. And then there's what they call jury behavior and decision making. We could call it assessor's behavior here in terms of decision making. Research in this area will help you examine the factors that influence an assessor, for example, in terms of jury decision making, or even including biases, or even attitudes, or even group dynamics. It's critical in terms of understanding how assessors or jury or even judicial officers, for that purpose, reach their witness or reach their findings for that purposes. And then testimony or eyewitness testimony. The reliability of eyewitness testimony is a key factor in psychology and law. So it helps you to examine the factors that affect the accuracy of the witness in terms of recalling them, or in terms of actually, the potentiality in terms of memory distortion, as it were. Then the legal aspects in terms of ethics and professional responsibility. Studying ethical considerations in terms of professional responsibilities, the legal practice, including issues related to client confidentiality and even competence, it becomes extremely essential for the ethical legal representation, as it were. I cannot overemphasize mental health and the law, as I told you. This area will help you have that intersection between the health and the legal system, including assessment and treatment of individuals with mental illnesses and the determination of competency in terms of standing the trial and in terms of issues that may have to do with insanity defenses as well. ADR, again, is a great big area. Research in this area focuses on non-adversarial methods of resolving disputes, such as mediation and negotiation, and how psychological principles can actually enhance in terms of conflict resolution. And then another area is what they call victimology. Understanding the experiences of the victims of a crime and the psychological impact of victimization is crucial in terms of addressing the needs of victims and developing what they call a victim-centered legal response. And then there's what they call cultural and diversity issues. It's important psychologically to understand or recognize the cultural and diversity factors that can actually affect legal proceedings and even the access to justice. It is important for promoting fairness and inclusivity in the legal system. And then there's what we call criminal profiling. Criminal profiling will involve the use of psychological techniques, for example, to create profiles of potential offenders. It's often used in law enforcement in terms of assisting in terms of investigation. Those are areas perhaps the police can bear and take witness out of them. Then there's what they call psychological evaluation and assessment. In this field of psychology, the law, encompasses the assessment of individuals involved in legal proceedings, including assessing their competency and even their mental health and the risk of assessment. So you don't have to have issues in backfires in courts where you have to turn your witnesses into hostile witnesses. Not so. So those are important. How about mental health advocacy and policy? Advocacy for mental health policy in terms of the rights of individuals with mental illnesses becomes important in terms of legal professionals and in terms of working in a mental field of law. All those, my friends, are extremely important. How about crisis, what they call crisis intervention, where legal professions, particularly those in criminal defense and family law, for example, may study crisis intervention in the management of clients in terms of crisis situations. How many times do they see some of the things coming up left, right, and center, even as you engage in it? So these areas of study will offer what they call valuable insights into the psychological aspects of the legal cases. It would also help in terms of the behavior of individuals within the legal system and the ethical and practical considerations in terms of the legal practice. So legal professions would definitely have a strong foundation in these topics and have more informed decision and be effective in terms of the decisions and in terms of their work. That becomes extremely important. My friends, the relevance of studying these various areas in the field of psychology and law is significant for lawyers. As I said, for legal professionals and the legal system as a whole. So please take note of that. Listen, my friends, if you want more of this information, find our book, The Law of Psychology. The Law of Psychology, so that you know what we're talking about, so that you comprehend what we need to know, what lawyers need to know, what advocates need to know as they engage in psychology. You can find it at lubogo.org or suigenerislawup.com. My name once again is Isaac Christopher Lubogo, right here at Suigeneris. God bless you and thank you for your attention.